Sometimes we get so caught up in gardening out in the sun that we forget that many fruits are native to woodland areas. Native fruits are often shade tolerant and will produce fruit in 4 to 6 hours of sun a day. This is the third video in a series. You can check out the first two on growing vegetables and herbs in partial shade. In this video, we are going to cover 9 perennial fruit trees and berry bushes that grow well in shade. Many of them are also fun to forage. Blackberries are common on the edges of woods, in meadows, and along waterways. They need 4 to 5 hours of sun and will do well if you plant them along a fence where they get about half a day of sunlight. They need well drained, acidic soil and will do well in raised beds. They don't like wet feet. Plant the brambles 5 to 6 feet apart. I always grow mine along a fence. If you live in a hot climate, then afternoon shade is best. Blackberries are self pollinating, so you don't need multiple plants for fruit production. Bees and other insects will also pollinate them. Ripe blackberries will be black and plump. You will need to harvest every few days as they ripen over a course of several weeks. There is a fabulous children's book called Blueberries for Sal about a mother and daughter who go picking wild blueberries. Lowbush berries are native to woodland meadows in northeast and north central regions of America. You can purchase lowbush berries for your home orchard. They do best with morning sun and afternoon shade. There are 2 types of blueberries, the lowbush and highbush. Lowbush varieties are smaller but very tasty and can handle more shade than most highbush varieties. The smaller size of the lowbush berries make them great for urban gardening, in pots, or in an herb garden. Both need acidic soil that is loose and well draining. Acid soil with a pH between 4 to 5 is essential. That's more acidic than our average garden soil, which averages about 6.5. You can watch my blueberry video to learn more about growing them. Backyard Berry Plants in Indiana has several varieties of low bush berries. Currants are in the ribes genus, along with gooseberries, which we'll discuss in a moment. Ribes is widely distributed throughout the northern hemisphere, both in North America and Europe. They like cool, moist growing areas and can be found in woodland meadows or near streams. In the wild, they are understory shrubs and like a sheltered spot with partial shade. Currants are small, round berries that come in several colors: black, red, and yellow. They are high in vitamin C and in Great Britain are often made into juice and wine. They are an attractive plant and are great in edible landscaping or a food forest. They also do well as a foundation hedge bordering the home or an outbuilding. They are great for wildlife gardens too. Birds love the berries, both for eating and shelter, and hummingbirds are attracted to the nectar-rich flowers. Currants do well when they get morning sun and afternoon shade. They don't like heat and will get wilted looking above 85 degrees Fahrenheit or 29 Celsius. They need good air circulation. They tend to flower very early in the spring and should not be planted in a site that is prone to late frosts. Good news for my Zone 6 friends, they do well in clay. They need nutrients, so amend your soil with compost and some kelp meal. Ribes plants, such as currants and gooseberries, are host to white pine blister rust. Because of that, there are restrictions on growing them in some states, so check with your local ag office. This ban is one reason that eating currants is not as popular in the US as it is in Europe. Another great woodland berry is the elderberry, which has edible flowers as well as berries. Keep in mind that elderberries cannot be eaten fresh. All parts of the elderberry plant are toxic and must be cooked before ingesting. Elderberries do well in partial shade, requiring around 4 to 6 hours of sunlight daily. They are valued for their health benefits and culinary uses. Elderberry is widely grown as a medicinal herb. You can watch my elderberry video for a recipe for cold syrup. Many times when you order elderberry, they will come as a bare root plant. When planting, dig a hole twice as deep as the roots. Elderberries like slightly acidic soil from 5.5 to 6.0 pH. Do a soil test. There are several things you can add to lower your pH, such as cottonseed, peat moss, coffee grounds, and gypsum. Keep it well watered the first year. It likes the soil to stay moist. Plant elderberries 8 feet apart. Both American and Europeans cross pollinate, so they need another variety. I like Adams and Johns, but you can look into what grows well in your area. Gooseberries are another option for partially shaded areas, as they can tolerate shade and need about 4 to 5 hours of sunlight daily. Like currants, they are in the ribes family and have that issue sometimes being restricted due to white pine blister rust. My gooseberry video has not been very popular, so I get the impression many people don't grow them, but they are definitely worth looking into. Gooseberries are quite hardy, productive, and do well as a backyard plant. Gooseberry plants live for about 15 years. You can typically get 4 to 5 quarts per plant once it's established. They are a low-growing bush and have a sweet, tart flavor. Some are good for fresh eating, and some are better to make into jams and pies. Gooseberries like well-drained, slightly acidic soil, like most of the plants we've talked about. So if you have heavy clay, dig in plenty of compost, peat, and some green sand. Plant them 3 to 6 feet apart. Mulberries are a fabulous addition to the home orchard. There are many species found around the globe. They live in forest edges and woodland meadows. Mulberries like part shade and do well with at least 5 hours of sun per day. In the 1950s, it was quite popular to plant mulberries in city parks and along roads because they are hardy and drought tolerant. This also makes them a popular foraging plant. The red mulberry is a species that is native to the eastern and central United States. I have a cultivar called Illinois everbearing, which is a great tree. They can tolerate a variety of soil types and are relatively pest and disease resistant. And guess what? They do great in heavy clay soil. Plant them in a location with plenty of space because they do get 30 to 40 feet tall. Keep young trees consistently moist during the first year of growth. Once they get established, they are quite drought tolerant. Pawpaws are an extremely popular forage fruit, and in my home state of Kentucky, we call them Kentucky bananas. I had several growing wild on the farm. They are an understory tree that does well in dappled shade and can grow with just 3 to 4 hours of sun a day. You can spot them in the woods in the springtime by their interesting flowers that smell pretty bad. They are pollinated by flies and beetles. You can grow them from seed, or much easier is to buy cultivars. Kentucky University has done a lot of research in growing them, and I'll link their page in the description. Stark Brothers Nursery has a great selection of cultivars. Domestic varieties grow about 12 feet. You will need to buy at least 2 different varieties for cross-pollination. Pawpaws like to be kept moist, but they also need well-draining soil. I recommend digging in plenty of compost when you plant out. Plums, or more specifically wild plums, do well in shade. They are also great to forage. You will see them listed in catalogs as American plums, native plums, or wild plums. Fedco Tree has a great variety, and the Arbor Day Foundation carries them as well. These trees are native understory trees and they will do well in part shade. Wild plums have pretty spring flowers and are a great pollinator for domestic varieties. They are also great for wildlife gardens and attract songbirds, pollinators, wild turkeys, and deer. So you've been warned if you consider them pests. Plums flower early in spring, so avoid low spots. Plant on a southwest hill if you have one that warms up early in spring. Plums like slightly acidic soil that drains well. Follow my secret sauce recipe that I talk more about in the plum video, which I'll put in the description. Raspberries are popular to grow and forage. I have many fond memories of tromping along the edges between field and woods picking black raspberries. Raspberries are very prolific and come in red, black, and yellow. Prepare your soil before planting. Do a soil test and dig in lots of compost. I know I always say that, but compost is the life of your garden. Raspberries do like sun, but tolerate part shade. I think that black raspberries do best in partial shade, like their wild cousins. Shoot for 5 to 6 hours of sun a day. They do well along a fence line. Raspberries are typically purchased as primo canes with 5 to 10 to a pack. Canes have shallow, fibrous roots. When you plant your canes, it's a good idea to give them a brief soak in water first. Raspberries are self-fertile, meaning you don't have to purchase different cultivars to get fruit. And everybody likes them. Have fun planning what fruits you can add to your shady garden spots. Check out my full-length videos on your favorites. Thanks for watching and have a delicious day.